Welcome to episode 298 of the Ski Podcast, and thanks for joining us for our latest Winter Olympics special episode. I'm your host, Iain Martin, and today I am joined by ex-Olympian and Team GB ski cross athlete, Emily Sarsfield. Hi, Emily, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me back.
Have you been out on the mountain today?
I have, yes, I have. I've been teaching. I've had a little 5-year-old in the snow. Fresh powder on the beginner slope.
As long as the fresh powder wasn't deeper than the 5-year-old themselves.
No, she did really well.
I have been skiing myself today for the first time in about 6 weeks or something. No, 8 weeks, because that is when I did my fracture 8 weeks ago tomorrow. And I've been in Isola 2000. I started the day in Nice, started very early, got the bus up here, and I was on the slopes by 9:30. Really so good to be on the mountain again, but I'll be covering that in more detail. Next week in episode 203, and this is an Olympic special, we have to start, unfortunately, or not, with last night's Snowboard Big Air final. It was a disappointment for Team GB with another fourth place after Kirsty Muir's in the ski slope style earlier in the day. Did you get to see that, Emily?
Yeah, I did. Obviously, really disappointing for Mia Brookes, but I mean, she was phenomenal. The fact that she actually went out there and she just laid it all out on the line in that final run was really impressive, and it didn't quite make it. But had she done that, she would have broken history again in women's snowboarding and pulled off yet another trick, which no one's attempted out there on the pro circuit. So you can't deny that she laid it all out there. So fair play to her, but so disappointing that she picked up yet another fourth for Great Britain. It appears to be the Olympics of fourth places.
Yeah, because also since we recorded, the curling team have come fourth as well. But you're right that Mia certainly went for it. I think she knew she'd have to land a trick she'd never attempted before on snow. Now, that was a backside 1620, and if that means nothing to you, I can recommend you listen to my interview with Ed Leigh in episode 296. It helps you understand all the language behind the freestyle tricks. What she said in the mix zone afterwards was she'd only ever done it on an airbag before. And the last time she did it on an airbag was 5 months ago. So it was the first time she'd ever tried it on snow.
Yeah.
And I think that even though, she didn't come off with a medal, to have the guts to be able to go for it and pull that off, display is remarkable character.
Yeah, I totally agree. And never having landed on snow before to go into kind of the biggest contest in the world and just think, I'm just going to give it a shot. The tenacity and the courage, it just shows what an incredible athlete she is, and her mental ability to be able to kind of compose herself and just go, I'm just going to go for it. Because she's obviously going to have fear as well. The size of that jump, they're jumping kind of over a couple of double-decker buses when they go down there, and covering some crazy height and length. Yeah, to be able to just go out and go, yeah, I'm just going to give it a shot. It's unbelievable. And she was so nearly there. She over-rotated.
Well, tremendous attitude. And I think, both Mia Brookes and Kirsty Muir have a second chance at a medal in the snowboard slopestyle and the ski big air. Qualifications for those start on Saturday, so you can be sure that we'll cover those as we get nearer the time. Now, Emily, you mentioned the fear, and, I guess there's always a risk of injury in events like that. Can I ask you about Lindsey Vonn? Because it's transpired that she has a complex tibia fracture requiring multiple surgeries.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, she claimed, she says that my ACL and past injuries had nothing to do with my crash whatsoever. Now, I've got massive sympathy with her. She's another athlete who's got an incredible determination. But it strikes me that she's sort of possibly living in denial a bit there in respect to that statement. I wondered what you thought about that.
From looking at the image she posted with that declaration, she basically shows that her inside arm is kind of caught in the gate, which obviously is going to create a pivot and make her spin. And that's what we saw in the crash, because there was a lot of snow and stuff like that. So we couldn't fully see everything, but the actual image she's posted does show her inside arm, which is going to cause that rotation. So I actually believe that, I don't think her injuries going in did have anything to do with that, because that's to do with the actual rotation she's got from the gate. What I do potentially think is, having been someone who's had, multiple knee injuries and worn knee braces and stuff in the past. When you're wearing these titanium knee braces, they're there to protect the kind of overload on the ACL and the MCL, PCL, to protect the ligaments of not creating too much force through there. However, I was told, should you wear your knee brace and do the same crash, that's when the force is going to go elsewhere. And I think that is where the tibia injury and fracture has probably come from. Had she not had the knee brace on, she could still have had that fracture, don't get me wrong. But I think kind of like that maybe having the knee brace has caused that kind of complication in the fracture. But I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know.
Neither am I. And, like I say, I am sympathetic, but I think that, to completely deny that had anything to do with it, physically, perhaps catching the gate is what caused the crash, but the consequences afterwards, regardless, I hope she recovers quickly, and I hope it's, not as serious as it may have seemed. Moving on to the events that happened today, women's Moguls qualification happened earlier. Makayla Guerke Schofield was representing Team GB. She finished in 18th. Now, that wasn't enough to get her through to the next round automatically. I'm not 100% sure how it works. There's another qualification session tomorrow. I suspect it won't be enough to get her through, which will be a disappointment to her as she finished 8th in Beijing. But let's see. This might be a good point to mention the documentary on TNT called She Who Dares. I really only know anything about Makayla because I watched that documentary. It's extremely good. I mean, you commentate on TNT. Have you seen it, Emily?
Yeah, I have. And it covers kind of the 5 kind of girls from GB within that kind of freestyle and snowboard and ski. It kind of shows them a little bit of the background and some of the actual hurdles they've had to overcome. And some of the hurdles which, Makayla's overcome from like school days of like bullying and this and that. And it just shows like their true character and the resilience within those girls. And you've got to remember that a lot of these girls aren't on funding. So, they're working extremely hard behind the scenes, both to try and get finance to kind of cover their the expenses, but also just the day-to-day grind as an athlete. But it's amazing documentary. They're really interesting to see the true behind the scenes of an athlete.
I think, in the documentary, they're actually shown together. I don't really think they come together, very often. They did manage to film 4 of them, I think, in one place. Maybe it's only when the World Championships or something like that come together, because normally they're training separately.
No, you're totally right. And it makes it seem as though when we have this GB team, you've got really loads of friends, but actually you're very much on your individual route, following your individual sports. A little bit like, the F1, they're just kind of doing the F1, and then the motorcycle races, they're doing their tournament. But so you don't really get to see each other until every 2 years, maybe at World Championships or in Olympic Games. We don't get to train day in, day out with one another.
It's still definitely worth a watch. So catch up with that, Discovery Plus or TNT. Now, one of the athletes featured in that is Charlotte Banks. She's in the Snowboard Cross. It is coming up on Friday. Charlotte Banks has a great chance for a medal. She has over 40 podiums already. She's a world champion. Now, Emily, you raced ski across at the Olympics, not snowboard cross, but incredibly similar. You know the event. What do you think? Charlotte
takes it all in her stride, and she's very controlled as an athlete. She's not like a huge personality who's kind of like, out and about all the time and stuff. And she works very closely with her coach. Has got a really good relationship with him and really trusts him. She actually used to race for France before she transferred over to GB, and she brought him with her. So they've got a really strong relationship. She's now got Hugh on the team with her, so she's got a little bit more camaraderie, which is great. She's always just in the zone. She's obviously had her fair share of injuries as well over this summer, so she's kind of been coming back, but she's already been on the podium we've seen this winter.
In Isola, where I am at the moment, they have an athlete from this resort who's competing there, Juliet. I can't remember her surname. I'm really sorry. And I mentioned, Charlotte Banks is taking part for GB. And they said, well, she's half French. We'll be supporting her as well. Charlotte does have a second crack at a medal, as you explained, with Hugh Nightingale in the mixed snowboard cross. But I had the opportunity to speak to Charlotte just before the games started. So let's have a quick listen to that.
Talking about the individual then, Charlotte, I tried to work out how many overall individual podiums you've had across your career. It's somewhere around 40, I decided. I couldn't exactly work it out, but you've been, amazingly consistent. I know that last year, towards the end of the season, you had an injury. What was that, and how did that recovery go?
So I broke my collarbone at the last World Cup of the season in Mont-Saint-Anne. Recovery wasn't as smooth as we'd have hoped. I had to have a second surgery in August and kind of was only back on snow beginning of November, but I think we've worked hard as a team to be ready for February, and that was kind of the goal. When we went into the second surgery in August, that was really the goal, was to be ready for February, so I think we're on track now.
Did you find that period frustrating?
Yeah, it was quite tough. I mean, certainly going back into the second surgery where I was kind of fit, felt good, but it hadn't healed, so I had to kind of go back to square one, and that was tough. It was, spending a lot more time in the gym and all that, and not outdoors, which, not the most pleasant, but I knew that I think having this end goal of the games was what drove me through the tough moments.
Well done on getting back and recovering so quickly.
Right, well, we wish Charlotte all the best. We'll be back on Saturday to review that event and cover the latest action. Listen, if you've enjoyed this episode, or even if you didn't like it, I'd love to know. You can leave a message on Spotify, Instagram, or Facebook. Our handle is @theski-podcast, or drop me an email to theski-podcast@gmail.com. And if you'd like to help the podcast, follow us or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Or if you're booking ski hire this winter, don't forget you can get an additional discount if you use the code SKIPODCAST when you book it in sportrent.com, or take the link in the show notes and your discount will be automatically applied. Right. For now, I would like to thank Emily for joining me. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We will be back on Saturday. And finally, listener, thank you for joining us wherever in the world you're listening right now. And until next time, goodbye.